So good morning, everyone. My name is Eileen Candles. I'm the Director of Partnerships here at Connecticut Center for Advanced Technologies, and welcome to our webinar and conversation today. I am really excited about the panelists who will be joining us, representing 4 different companies here in Connecticut and sharing their experiences, both in terms of starting up their internship program in the first place, what has morphed and evolved over time, and what recommendations they have for people who either don't have a program yet, are pondering it, or those who have one and are looking for some tips on how to continually drive improvements. So with me today, we have 3 different employer representatives: Robin from HAPCO, Jessica from SPIROL, and Chris from Northeast Scientific, and they'll be introducing themselves shortly. And also joining, sharing her experiences, both from having been an intern and now a full-time employee at PTA Plastics, is Meg Spielman. So I think you'll enjoy and appreciate the recommendations from all of them. I won't be able to unmute the audience, so we will ask you to put questions in the chat, and then I will read them on your behalf, or my support partners, panelists here, will help me with that. And then I'll also end with a little bit of information about the program and the different supports that we provide for Connecticut manufacturers and next steps you should take to engage in the program. So Donna, we can go forward to one more slide here. So the Connecticut Manufacturing Internship Program is actually going into our 5th year. We were launched originally in the summer of 22 and have been funded and sponsored by the state of Connecticut, the Department of Economic and Community Development, through the Manufacturing Innovation Fund, has provided us with support and funding these last 4 years, and now going into the next of our 2-year contracts. We grew from 35 interns that original year to over 258 enrolled interns across the state of Connecticut last summer. And this year, we think we're going to blow out the number 300 and hope to have more and more companies participate to help share the advantages of what we do and how we can support the interns with their summertime hires. We do provide job posting and a resume portal access for organizations that post their openings with us. We provide a free career fair, an orientation session, tours and technical webinars through June and July, and networking opportunities. And then those companies that are qualified are eligible to receive up to $14,000 each summer in matching wage subsidies. And I'll go into more detail on those later. But now I think I'd like to invite on my counterparts. So Robin and Jessica and Chris, if you would come on camera now, we're going to dive into some conversation with you. So my real loaded question to start with, and Robin, maybe we'll come to you first, is why have an internship program and what has the impact been on your company? And then Jess and Chris, maybe we'll go in that order.
Well, we see the need to have the talent pipeline come into our manufacturing space. It's been harder and harder to find the right people to come into manufacturing. So through so many of the programs through Connecticut, through ACM, CCAT, ConStep, CBIA, we're all trying to work together to get more of this talent into our pipeline. Because as you know, aerospace is very specific and needs very good qualified people. And unfortunately, a lot of kids think that they need the college education and don't want to go necessarily into manufacturing because they think it's a dirty place. So if we can have this internship and show kids that it is so changed, it's all about computers, it's all clean, it changes their view. So we started doing internships many years ago. We've actually had I believe over 20 years ago, we had one of our interns and he was hired directly, and he then became our engineering manager, and he is now the accountable manager for our FAA repair station. So that's an intern that's been here over 20 years.
A
I think
long-term intern.
a very long term. I think there was a little bit of interim time that we weren't doing so many, but about 6 or 7 years ago, we started really trying to pursue that and get more interns into the building. So with the help of CCAT, we were able to do that. We started by going to the Quinnipiac and the CCSU career fairs and literally collecting resumes for kids who wanted internships. And that's where we found our first few. Since then, HAPCO's name has really become synonymous with engineering interns. And we no longer have to go to those career fairs because we get tens up to hundreds of resumes from kids who have just heard us word of mouth. The people who work in those colleges give our name out. So we get a lot of contacts for kids who want internships here. So we just stack up those resumes, and in February we start interviewing and choose our interns from there. Typically, we do have engineering interns. That is kind of our focus. But we have had interns in supply chain and kind of in the back end of shipping and receiving as well. So it works out great for HAPCO because we have hired several of them. Our current engineering supervisor is a past CCSU intern from that started with HAPCO in his junior year. We have several others that we have hired and moved on to other companies and other positions, but it works out great for us.
That's awesome. Robin, I apologize too. I was so enthusiastic to jump into the material. I had neglected to ask you to provide a short intro of yourself and HAPCO. So could you tell everyone too, how large is the company and what the scope of your role is?
Sure. So HAPCO Industries is an aerospace manufacturer. We don't actually make things that fly. We make tooling and test stand to build both the airplane engines and the airframe. HAPCO has about 57 employees right now. We are growing a lot. Right now, we have a lot of good things coming on the horizon. And I'm the HR generalist here at HAPCO, and I've been here since actually yesterday, February 4th, was my 7th anniversary here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And for your opening comments. That's great. So Jessica, could you share an intro about you and then why have an internship program?
Thank you. So my name is Jessica Vanderswa. I am the Global HR Director for SPIROL. SPIROL is a global manufacturer of engineered fasteners, precision components, and assembly solutions. So our products are literally found everywhere, from automotive to aerospace to medical devices and consumer products. We literally hold the world together. We produce over 2 billion components every year, and that's across more than 30,000 standard items. SPIROL's privately held, family-owned company. We've been in business for 77 years, and we are headquartered right in northeastern Connecticut. We're located in 13 countries around the world, and we have 750 talented team members. So the internship program for us, I like to consider it more of a long game. We're focused on investing to build our future. Our internship programs start at the high school level. We feel it's really important to get out in front of students as young as we can. We've done a lot of programs really with middle school as well, but we like to get high school students, into our organization and really introduce them to the benefits of a career in manufacturing. To your point, Robin, it's, there's so many misconceptions, I think, about manufacturing. It's come such a long way. It's so clean, it's so innovative, and it's so exciting to make things, right? When we think about career fairs and our goal of going to career fairs, it isn't necessarily to hire. Our approach really is to get ourselves out in front of students and build a familiarity among them so they understand who we are and what we do. If a hire comes from that, great. But for us, we like to take an educational approach as well when we can. We know an intern, may not join us when they graduate and they're looking for full-time employment. And that's okay. For us, we're looking at it where we have an opportunity perhaps to really provide them with a valuable experience that they'll hopefully use to make good decisions about their future. And if we've positively influenced that, then that's a win for us. The impact for Spiral has been significant when we think about internships. We started offering internships. This probably goes back 25 years ago. We have a really robust scholarship program that for a graduating high school senior who is going on to major in a STEM field, they have an opportunity to earn a scholarship from Spiral that pays up to $30,000 over the 4 years of their educational experience. Through that, they're guaranteed an internship every summer. Some of them take it, some of them don't, and that's okay. But I think our approach to internships started there. But in addition to that, now we offer it, for students who aren't going, through our scholarship program. Again, I think for us, it's about fostering interest in manufacturing and giving students an opportunity to try out a career before they make any decisions, with their lives, right? We're giving
Right.
a chance to sort of rotate through different things and open their minds a bit to how they could use their engineering major, for example, and how they could use that, to perform in a role at Spiral. Sort of equal with that, I think, is also the benefits that our team members get from hosting an intern. Last year, we made a decision really to focus, not only on the intern's experience, but our employees' experience hosting that internship as well. We created a program called the Spiral Ambassador Program. The goal initially was really to extend the reach of HR as we come out to these career fairs. There's so few of us and so many career fairs that we want to go to, both at the high school level and the college level as well. So we developed an ambassador program to extend that reach. But then we took advantage of having the ambassador pool to also host something called a career exploration session with our interns. So, for example, if we had a mechanical engineer joining us for an internship during the summer, and they were working out in manufacturing engineering, we get together with them and we have them choose 3 additional departments to rotate in and out of for, a couple days throughout their summer experience with us. But it opens their eyes to how can you use a mechanical engineering degree in marketing or in sales? What does that look like for Spiral? So you have an intern coming in thinking, oh, I just want to work in operations, but they walk away understanding how much you need a STEM degree to work in marketing for a company like Spiral. So that's been really rewarding.
Right.
We look forward to doing it again this summer. Our ambassadors look forward to hosting those sessions. They have a chance to talk about what they do. So, one of the questions that we get asked a lot is, well, I'm a company of 35 people. I'm not 750, or I'm not 200 like you have in Connecticut. So how can I scale this program? It really is about extending your reach. If you're an HR department of 1, find a buddy. Maybe your manufacturing engineer wants to get out to a career fair and become an ambassador for your company. Or maybe one of your machine operators wants to go to a local high school event. Awesome. It's creating those opportunities for your team to tell your story and bring, students in and educate them.
You've recruited other recruiters, Jessica, and helped develop them, in addition to really helping everybody with their own speaking skills, right? So it's nurturing that and taking the enthusiastic person who's going to magnetize and bring new talent to you. So I love that you do that through the ambassador program. And really, when I heard last summer about how you do that very intentional department visits and shadowing, I think is really one of the best practices I wanted shared on this call. Smaller companies might think, well, it happens organically, but at times you really need to provide a little bit of structure to it, because I'll have to say, I've occasionally seen people be like, I want to keep that talented person to myself. I don't want to share them with the next department. So you sometimes get a little bit of that, or you sometimes get just a little bit of the student thinks they have to keep their head down and they can't be broader minded. So thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, of course. And we have curriculum. I'd be more than happy to share, with other employers, our approach to that program and sort of what's worked for us and what we've maybe had to pivot a bit, as we're now moving into our second year with the exploration program. But the feedback from the first summer was just really outstanding. And I think it's also a nice hook to get interns back next summer, because now they can be, exposed to
Right,
3 more departments, right? And just
right.
continue to learn about, all of the careers we have, under one roof. It really is significant.
That's
Eileen, can I
awesome. And
jump in as well?
please.
I just want to echo what Jessica said, that about she has an ambassador program. Whenever we do go to a career fair, or there's a meeting at the Capitol, that happens every year, we always bring our younger workforce, whether it be,
Mhm.
we always do try to bring one of our past interns who have been hired. But even if they're not an intern, we bring some of our younger people, whether they're engineering or welders, just because they are a little more approachable to somebody who's young. And
Totally agreed.
not for nothing, but I speak great HR language, but I don't know as much about the floor and the technical part of it. So I really need their voice when these kids, who some of them are sharp as tacks, they have questions that I can't answer. So it's really great to have those approachable younger people who can answer the technical questions, to draw them into our booth.
Mhm. That's a great
Completely agree with you.
Yeah, great point, Robin. When a student can see themselves in somebody else, it's so powerful. And it really, again, it sort of shows them like, oh my gosh, I can do this, right? When we think about women representing in STEM and being present, at the career fairs or at the high school level, or even, we did a jewelry making class with parts that we were going to scrap, our metal cut parts. And we, with a girls empowerment group, and these girls were anywhere from 7 years old to 12. And we sat around a table holding spiral parts. And then, I was explaining to them what we did, and they were like, wow, you built this, you're part of this. And I was like, yeah, I am. Isn't it cool? High five, So it's super empowering. And I think, when you're out there and you're speaking about these opportunities to students or to kids, it's important that they can see themselves, doing, what you're doing, or what your team members are doing. That representation is so critical.
So Chris, before we hop to you, I just wanted to
Yes.
add to that, Jessica. I was at an event yesterday with 10 different manufacturers from the southwestern corner of the state. And one of the women, who was second generation family lead for her business, her manufacturing company, MDI in Southern Connecticut, said she feels like there's a great emphasis in the really young ages, the elementary schools, and then there's opportunity again at a high school level for students to interact with manufacturing, but what more could be done at that middle school level? And my comment to her, partly because I'm involved in a number of advisory boards, is get involved in your school district and help be that voice. But the other thing is, when we all really stop and think about it, we had exposure as kids to what a doctor does, what a nurse does, what a policeman does. You could see, whether it's on TV or you see it in real life, or a fireman, and what people in retail might do. But if you didn't grow up in a family that was within manufacturing, you don't know what goes on in an industrial park unless you have that opportunity. So kudos to SPIROL for that involvement. I love the idea of making jewelry with your parts. I want to come to that session, Jessica.
I'll let you know.
All right, good. So Chris, can you tell us about your
Yeah,
role in Northeast Scientific?
absolutely.
And
Yep. Before I do, I'm just going to say I'm inspired by what Robin and Jessica are talking about. Um, you know, the program that we run here at Northeast Scientific is generally it's in its infancy, right? And so as I hear some of the things you guys talk about, I'm sitting here taking notes as a panelist, and it's exciting. Um, especially what you say about the job shadowing and rotating. We, in our program, we hope that it happened organically, but what we found at the end when we did our, exit interviews was, hey, we wished we had some more structure inside of being able to see some of these other departments. And we thought, oh my gosh, what are we thinking? We should have had them seeing some other things, especially because we offer some engineering roles that are pretty broad. That's, as an engineer, you might not spend too much time seeing quality engineering in the academic environment, but it's a huge part of what we do in regulated industry and manufacturing. So, a mechanical engineer or an electrical engineer might see this and say, "Ooh, actually, that's more up my alley." Um,
Right.
But I'll go backwards. I'll introduce myself here before I get carried away. I'm Chris Rossi. I'm the general manager at Northeast Scientific. We are a medical device reprocessing company based in Waterbury, Connecticut. We've been doing what we do for a little over 20 years. We operate primarily in the peripheral vascular space. So we reprocess catheters specifically. We have a portfolio of about a dozen or so different products of different sizes and dimensions. Pretty interesting business model that we have here. And I do believe we are a bit of a niche manufacturing company in the state of Connecticut. And so what I found is when we've had, folks like CCAT come out or some of our vendors and see what we do, they come to find that it's quite interesting. And we're just very excited to be here to talk about the internship program that we do run and why is it important to have an internship program. Robin and Jessica really nailed it down. So there's not much I can do beyond really reflect what they said. If I could give one sentiment, it would be this: it's not just what your company can get from the intern, but what you can give back to the intern. Like Jessica said, maybe they all don't come back to you, but you give these interns this amazing opportunity to be exposed to something that they will never see in the schoolhouse. And they will go back to school and they will tell their friends and they will tell their professors and they will tell their teachers. And before you know it, you have your phone ringing from the schools asking you about what you do. There is a tremendous amount of value from being involved in this. And it's not, like I said, just what does the company benefit? What is this, what are these students benefiting from? How are we able to keep some of these students that are in Connecticut schools here in the state of Connecticut and not go outside where there's tons of opportunity for them? Connecticut is a manufacturing state. I truly believe that we are a powerhouse with unlimited opportunity for these students, and all we have to do is open the door.
Fabulous. Thank you. Love your quote there too, not just what you get, but what you're giving, right? What are you giving to them and how are you inspiring in all the different ways that Robin and Jessica have also shared? So how have each of you structured your program when you think about setting up and evaluating what internship openings you might have each summer? Is it per department or what kind of approach do you take to that? And maybe let's start this time with Jessica and then to Robin and then to Chris.
Sure. So for us, our program, really our planning process starts now. It actually starts in January where our departments start reflecting, okay, what are we focused on this summer? What are the value add projects? Because I think it's important, we have summer help as well. So students that are just, they're going to come and help us take care of our grounds, or they're going to do some internal work. Those projects are reserved sort of for our summer help team. For an internship, it's important that the student is getting something out of it. So our internships are never just solely at a desk, filling in spreadsheets or plugging in information. No, it's definitely a meaningful project that has an objective that's measured, throughout the summer. And it all culminates in a presentation where the interns, when we kick things off, when they all generally come about mid-May, we have a meet and greet session where they can meet each other. They can talk to the rest of the group about their project. Typically, we bring in like Dell's Lemonade. And so the support manager for that project is present along with our CEO. So the interns right away are getting exposure to executive leadership, which has a pretty strong impact. And then they work for the summer on the project. And then in August, before they leave us and go back to school, they present, how that project turned out. Maybe it's something they're going to come back in December and continue to work on, or they're looking forward to coming back next summer because it's a longer term, project. But typically that's sort of the cycle for us. We start planning in January. Recruiting for us, we certainly our scholarship program has an impact because those students get, sort of like first dibs on the projects that are available. And we match them up. We want to understand their major and what they're looking to get out of the internship project,
right,
and match that internally so that there's alignment. They have a virtual meeting with the project sponsor, the manager for that project, just to, again, make sure there's alignment. And then they join us early May and progress through their project throughout the summer. So it's definitely, a process, and we try to, get that relationship in place, with the student. If they're brand new to us, we'll have them come on site and visit. You know, one of the things that we find, we recruit from three major schools. It's like a triangle basically to where we're located: WPI, UConn, and URI. Those are some three major engineering schools that we work with. And so we always want to make sure that the commute for the intern is realistic, because it's
It's
funny.
workable.
It's workable because they'll sign up, they'll get very excited and say, "Oh, I can commute to Killingly from New Haven." And my response is, "No, you cannot." Like, that would be,
Or try it.
try it. Yeah, exactly. You know, and I try to refer them, you know, to another organization that I know that would provide them with a meaningful internship or, you know, experience. So, because it's a partnership, right, from an employer perspective.
That's really cool, Jessica, if I can. Like, that's great. And we kind of do the same thing. I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, we're all in this together, right? And so we're all looking for talent. And to your point, Chris, it's so important that we're looking to focus and keep talent in Connecticut, right? So much business moves out. So you hear about that all the time. And you know, we're headquartered here. So when our founder, Herman Cole, landed in the United States, like, he chose Northeastern Connecticut to start Spiral. So we don't want to leave, right? We've got deep roots here. This is our community. So it's important that we're focused on keeping, you know, students here and, you know, their educational experience, getting that to pay back, you know, in Connecticut is so critical. So, so that's our approach to interns. I hope I answered your question, Eileen.
Yeah, the structure of it and how you look at that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Robin?
Okay, so we typically we have a very dynamic and growing engineering department. So we do typically try to get 2 engineering interns. So that's kind of just standard. We do have several different areas in our engineering department that we can look at. We have manufacturing engineering, we have electrical engineering, and we also have estimating engineers. So when we'll discuss where we kind of need more help beforehand, before we start interviewing. And then when we line up interviews, we will talk about what their interests are, what do they want to do in the future, and then line up what works the best for those areas. We will also check with different departments to see if they have projects that they need help with. So we've had people in supply chain helping buyers do cleanup and ordering. We've had people in our shipping and receiving department. So there's several different areas that we have done internships. We always check with our managers ahead of time to see what they need, and then we will interview accordingly. Once we select our candidates, the managers will go ahead and make an intern work plan. It's actually a form that they will fill out with everything that they hope to accomplish, what they want to teach the interns, what they want from the interns. And then on their first day, they sit down and go over that document to let them know exactly what we expect and have a discussion with them. Is this something that they're interested in? Do they, it's a two-way street. Do they want to add additional things? And then they get guidance from there. They always have a manager assigned to them, but they also have a buddy
Great.
who is a mentor. The mentor is typically a younger, newer engineer who can remember what it's like to be the new guy. But I also find that it's helpful that we always have 2 engineering interns. It's 2 kids who they're scared. Honestly, they're nervous about their first real job. And if there's 2 of them, they can commiserate, and they
Right.
have a buddy right away who they both don't know anybody. So they can go to lunch
Right.
together the first day. They will start to put out feelers. They learn people, but at least that very first week when they're the most timid, they have a buddy. I find that it's very helpful. But then they have a mentor who is fairly young, who they can go to, and then they also have a director who's their manager, who they're assigned to, who they can go to the higher level and get direction from. Our interns go through the entire new hire process. They are onboarded as if they are going to start working at HAPCO. They have all the onboarding paperwork to do. They have to do the background check. They do a drug test. They do everything. They even have to go through anti-harassment training. We have them do everything exactly as a regular hire would do, so they can see how the process works. So even if they end up staying with HAPCO, that's all done and we don't have to do it from there on. And
You've checked that box.
all right, but even if they move on, they know exactly what to expect from any
Right.
other company that they go to. They've been through it. So we do that on purpose so that they get that experience, because while it is about their job, if they're an engineer, it's about engineering, but it's also about teaching them the softer skills, how to get through that whole period of the newness and learning not to be on your phone, and all the parts that they need to be a good employee. We try to really help them through that as well.
Work habits, right? It's like establishing or making sure they have a good foundation of work habits.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's great. That's great. And I love the buddy structure and talking about that. I think that so oftentimes can be overlooked and can be a real error in not helping your person understand the culture and the work expectations of the organization. Sometimes it could be easier too for that coworker who's of similar age to talk about appropriate work dress or inappropriate, or you want to go there, don't go there unless you're alone with your manager conversation advice. Thanks, Robin. Chris?
Yeah. And just to piggyback off that, it's like nobody wants to seem incompetent to their new supervisor or their new boss, right? And so when you have that buddy, it creates this safe outlet where they can go ask their stupid question, right? Where do I go to the bathroom? Where's the break room? What time do people do this or that? So that's super cool. I'm glad to hear that that's going on elsewhere. So Northeast Scientific, the structure for our program, we've only ran 2 cohorts of internships. So this will be our 3rd year. So in the first year we had 2024, we had 4 interns. How do we select those interns, or what's the process of what we went about that? Or in 2025, it was 3, so we went 4 and 3. It was really the needs of the business. Sat down with all of the leaders from departments and say, does anybody have a need? We look at what are, like you guys said, our upcoming projects or, installation of capital equipment. Where do we have a need for a smart individual to come here and give us some help from the outside to try to work on this? And that's where those needs get selected and highlighted. And from the past 2 years, the needs have been different and varied across the organization. One of the really cool things about CCAT's program is that you can have students that are not in the or in the engineering discipline that can participate. So we've had sales and marketing, we've had IT. It's been really, really interesting and cool to see the different kids that can come in. So once they've been selected, we have last year we've continued to iterate over our first 2 years, and this year we hope to be even better. But last year we structured it so that the very first week was orientation week. We tried to make it look, feel, and seem very similar, like Robin said, to onboarding as you would as a normal employee. Why? Because it gives them that experience, right? This may be the first professionalized job they've ever had, and they are very nervous. And so you give them that exposure, so the next time they go off to another organization, get that new opportunity, they're feeling a little more confident about walking in through the door. And what does this look like? What can I expect to see? So we keep that cohort together. And as you guys alluded to as well, having a group is really good. Now, I'm not knocking anyone who would select to have 1 intern, because it can be a handful depending on the size of the organization or what you have going on, the balls you're juggling. But having a cohort is wonderful because they can relate to each other. They are all feeling nervous together. They can all come in and kind of do some of that same experience together. But they can also work together and kind of share some of their experience across the organization, because they don't get to see all of the same things every day. So what we did was we structured in bi-weekly check-ins with their direct supervisor. We did 3 check-ins with the CEO. So as Jessica said, being able to get them exposed to very high level leadership for an organization, something is you're not going to be able to do in a first job, right? They're not going to take you to the CEO and say, hey, you want to sit in an hour and he'll explain to you where this all came from. We do that 3 times. First at the end of the first month, the end of the second month, and the end of the internship. And then the last very structured piece of it was a group capstone project. So as it was kind of mentioned already, so this is where we put very set time aside to bring those interns that were from last year 3 different areas. So we had sales and marketing, we had R&D engineering, and we had a intern in our internal biology lab. So the 3 of them brought very broad perspective across our organization, and they were asked to come up with an idea to make Northeast Scientific a better place. They worked together to bring up something that was absolutely outstanding, something that we took action on actually. So, really, really proud to be able to say that. That's the way that we structure it. At the end, it's, send them off on their way back to the schoolhouse and hope that they're singing the praises of us. And it seems to have worked out that way so far.
That's fabulous, Chris. And I didn't know that about your doing and taking that capstone project shared approach, but I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Interns
I think it's
really appreciated it.
Right, right. So, but you've given me a great segue to invite Meg to come on. Meg Spielman was an intern that I first met through this program a couple of years ago, and through her experience working at PTA Plastics as an intern, where she now is full-time. And Meg, if you could introduce yourself or give anything more that I haven't already said in singing your praises, and then tell us a little bit about both your experience as an intern and then move however you'd like into how PTA Plastic has structured things that made sense for you as an intern and that you've seen continually evolve.
Of course, thank you. So my name is Meg Spielman. I'm a manufacturing engineer at PTA Plastics here in Oxford. Like Eileen said, I started out as an intern back in the summer of 2023. I graduated college in 2024, and then I was able to come back to PTA full-time in the position that I'm in now. So I've definitely seen the internship experience from both sides. I'd say PTA has a very unique structure to our internship. We have a very team-based or team-focused internship where we take about 3 college students each year and we put them into a group. And we give that group one big main project to work on for the entirety of the summer, with the end goal being that at the end of the summer, PTA can take that project and implement it right on our production floor. So we always pick a project that's very lean focused, usually incorporate automation because that's going to have the biggest impact for the company. And then PTA will structure the interns' learning around that main project. So for me, I actually picked PTA to do my internship because of this structure. I met some of the PTA representatives at the career fair at Quinnipiac University, actually, and they described this structure to me, and I thought it sounded really cool and very different from what most other companies do for an internship. And I think a lot of engineering in school, obviously, but also in real life in manufacturing is team-based. So to see this kind of reflection of real life is part of what drew me to PTA for my internship. I think also having the one main project as the focus kind of helped take all the stuff that we learned at the start of the internship and gave us an outlet to directly apply it and then expand on it based on what we knew from being in school. Going back to, I would say at the start of the internship, we always kind of give the interns this like toolbox. We call it building a toolbox of their skills, because you can't learn everything that you need for working at a real company in school. It's just a lot of companies, especially in manufacturing, are very kind of niche. Like I had no clue about manufacturing because I was, just a mechanical design engineer. I didn't know about what I was getting into until I was here. So I think starting interns off by learning the most important skills and the basics of what they'll need for the job is the best way to set them up for success. So for my internship, the first thing that we did that summer was we sat down with the continuous improvement coordinator here and we learned about lean. He had this really cool course where we were working with Legos to create Lego airplanes. And then, you get to learn about the 8 wastes. How can we make this process the most efficient way possible? And then you kind of can take those principles and put it towards the project that we're working on because the project was, of course, a continuous improvement project. We also got introductory cobot training. Cobot was the robot arm that we were going to be using for our project. And so having this toolbox just helped us build up this background so that we could just jump right in because we felt confident with the tools that we were given. And then we just had free reign of the project. And I think another cool thing, and I want to echo what some of the other panelists said about having that group structure is I can say from my experience, it is really helpful to have other people that are your age working alongside you because you feel less afraid to go and have to ask your mentor a question every 3 seconds. It's a lot easier when you have other interns to bounce ideas off of and you're all working on the same thing. I think another cool thing about PTA's internship is that because it's a long-term project, you have time and the opportunities to go off on your own and learn something that maybe you as an individual are passionate about or interested in. I think some of the other panelists touched on this too, where you can go around and say like, we have mold designers here, we have quality engineers, we have project managers that are willing to sit down with you or let you shadow them for a day. And I think that's really cool because, like I said, I had no clue what manufacturing entailed until I got here. And then so to see the other options of, okay, I'm working towards a mechanical engineering degree, but what else can I do with that degree? So you have the
Right,
opportunity to go and talk to these experts in their field and see what their job is about and get that learning experience. I think something that is also cool that I did when I was an intern was I would ask the automation engineers if I could help design robot end of arm tools. Just to get some other kinds of hands-on design experience on the side of the main group project. But I would say the crux of the internship for me was feeling like I had a real impact on the company and knowing that the company was taking me seriously as an intern.
right,
They're taking the time to train me and show me things and trusting me and the other interns to create something that's going to have a real impact on the floor.
right.
I think it was also cool that I would compare my internship with some of my friends from school that also were doing an internship that summer, and they were always so jealous because, I'm designing and building and learning stuff and working with robots, and a lot of them were sitting at their desk all day on Excel. And so they were always very jealous because, this is such a unique experience. And I think it's always a positive one that we put on here, but it definitely takes time to develop a program like that. So I was the second year that PTA started structuring the internship this way. We're now prepping for year 5 this summer, which is crazy to say. I think PTA has definitely refined the program to flow a lot better, a lot more efficiently, and we have a lot more resources to guide and mentor the group, including myself, because now I can be that mentor the way that
Right.
I was mentored. I think being on the employer side of it now, I still really love the team approach. I think it's cool to see their progress and their creativity grow as they learn and as they get to know one another. It's like we provide the initial principles for them to follow, and then they can bounce ideas off of each other and turn it into something really great. I think it's always better to have a group that can work together because they're going to come up with a lot better ideas than any of the individuals would on their own. I think my favorite part of the internship is when the project completes and we can implement it on the floor. These projects are really important because they save us a lot in labor costs and materials, and they're always high impact projects that maybe we don't always have time for. So to have, this external group come in and do it for us, and then we can just implement it is really cool. And it's always really gratifying for the interns to see their hard work come to fruition and see their project get used on the floor. And then the last thing I really wanted to say, and I think this is the most important thing, is that I love getting to know the interns on a personal level, I think for them feeling included, feeling important makes you want to come back. And I think it should always be our goal to cultivate strong interns, not only so that we have a great project for the summer, but so that we can prep them for the workforce and ideally, you know, rehire great candidates for a full-time position so that we can keep expanding our engineering personnel and our expertise and expand our potential for the future. So.
That's awesome. So Meg, thank you for
I
echoing
know that was a lot.
many of the points that were made by this group. And also I
Yeah.
know, and to some of the questions, and there are questions in the chat now too. So Robin, Chris, Jessica, and Meg, I'm going to kind of flow through a couple of them and ask you to answer. And not all of you necessarily, because we're not going to have time to do that, but if you can look at the questions that you think maybe you want to speak to more directly. Meg, I know that I've seen you do exactly what Robin mentioned earlier. You yourself are part of the recruiting team. I know you and Gina, for example, go out and have represented at career fairs to help hire and bring on board and be that role model and that see her, be her person for other people maybe considering coming to PTA Plastics. So, you know, that's exactly to what you'd said earlier, I think, Robin, about making sure that you have that younger representation. So going back to, I think, the first question here from Al. So, hey, Al, nice to see you on this call. How do you decide what to pay the interns? Case by case, market conditions, special incentives relative to a full-time job?
Yeah.
If one or two of you could take that, Jess.
Sure, yeah, I can jump in. So we have one of the things, and I appreciate Robin and Chris kind of talking about, and Meg, you know, giving your perspective on the number of interns that you have. I think that's important, you know, to understand, you know, it's nice when you have two, obviously, just one makes a difference, right? Last summer, I think we had 17. And again, like we're a large, you know, organization here in Northeastern Connecticut. So, and that spans across multiple departments. So when you look at pay structure for something like that, for us, it depends on the year they're in college, what year they are, and also their major. So if it's a STEM-based major, that is one hourly rate. If it's business or other, you know, major, that's a different hourly rate. But the span for us is anywhere from $20 to $25 an hour. Our interns are hourly based. And Robin, to echo your approach, we do the same thing. We onboard them just as we would any other SPIROL employee, so they understand our expectations, you know, coming into our workforce and what that looks like for them. So so that's, yeah, we do the same.
And from maybe
Anyone else want to add to that?
Yeah, from maybe the perspective of a smaller employer, we're about 70 employees in Waterbury. But we really have a lot of like very similar approach to that. It depends on which department. We look at the pay ranges all very specifically and what they can offer and what's the market comparable here in the state of Connecticut. But that range that Jessica just mentioned is right on par.
Who's involved? And Al, I'm jumping to one of your last questions, and then Rachel, I'll come back to yours. But beyond monetary compensation, what things seem to attract interns to a specific company? And then we'll move on to what's your intern selection process and who participates?
I can jump in.
Great, Robin.
I think being out there and as we kind of all spoke about having the younger workforce with us when we're recruiting helps them see that there is a future. It's not just an internship and bye-bye, you know, we're never going to hire you. They can see that when I'm introducing our engineering supervisor, that he started as an intern. He interned in his junior year of college, and then he interned in his senior year of college, and then we hired him full time. We have another engineer that was interned with us for 2 years, and then was hired. We had the offer to him before he graduated because we didn't want anyone else to steal him. So I think that helps them choose our company, but it's also having a good relationship with the colleges that you're recruiting from, the guidance counselors, the we have really good relationships with them and some of the high schools as well, some of the technical schools. Those guidance counselors have a good relationship with us, so they direct the students to us. They know it's going to be a good place for them to go. They're going to get a good education. They're going to get a real good view of the real world. So having those relationships helps. And then beyond that, internally, they're just a part of our regular employee engagement. When they first come in, we give them swag, we give them t-shirts, we give them the hats. They think it's really cool to have that they're actually wearing HAPCO
Right.
gear. It makes
Right.
them feel a part of HAPCO, not just, hey, there's that guy who doesn't have a HAPCO shirt. He must be an outsider. It helps them feel included. I think that's really, mostly what we do. It's a lot of just working with that pipeline.
That's awesome. What I want to ask, because you're kind of starting to build on one of Rachel's questions, which is what type of activities are planned to build culture? So sometimes it is being part of the company and wearing the swag, having the look of the company. But
Right.
Jess, would you want to add something else to that in terms of activities and culture?
Sure, definitely very similar to HAPCO's approach and what Robin talked about is including them, right? We have a huge company picnic every summer. Our interns are part of the badminton playoffs that we have during that event, or they're participating on the cornhole team with somebody else within the organization. So it really is about immersion, right? Because again, you're showing them your company's culture. They're living it, they're experiencing it. And even if they don't end up joining your company, they become little ambassadors for you in their communities, right? They can speak about what it's like to be a SPIROL employee. Chris, I love your approach about the continuous improvement project and like giving them an opportunity to say, like, how could this environment be better, right? Because I think as manufacturers, we're always looking for continuous improvement opportunities, whether they're big or they're small, right? The impact is still an impact. And I think getting that perspective, like that's definitely something that I will take, and incorporate into our program, because getting them to be part of something and to have an impact, I think is important. So yeah, just immersing them into our culture, from swag to company picnics to, continued reach out in literature. They're getting Christmas cards from us. They're getting, some kind of touch point even after they've left us, just to continue, that culture, I think is important.
I agree with all that. And just getting the interns involved in like your daily battle rhythm, the way that your company moves from Monday to Friday. Getting them to come and sit and be a fly on the wall for the leadership meeting, or for the current project meetings. No expectation, no stress, no need to speak, no need to provide anything, but allow them to see that, because that is the culture of your business, right? How do you guys talk to each other every day? How do you work with each other every day? How do you work through problems? It's every day isn't always butterflies and unicorns, and so it's good to give that exposure and show, hey, in the schoolhouse everything goes as planned pretty much. In the real world and in industry, you're constantly working through challenges. Every day you trade your challenges, today's challenges for tomorrow's challenges, and I think it's really great for people to see that, interns especially.
That's awesome.
Can I add one thing as well? Sorry. We also, it's not just a summer internship. Once they're onboarded, they're pretty much an employee. Even after the summer leave ends, we don't necessarily offboard them. We don't turn off their computers and take away their access. We always offer them the ability to come back and work over the holiday break as well. You never know what kind of background these kids come from. Some of them definitely don't want to work over the holiday break. They want to just go skiing all winter, whatever, that's fine. Some of them need to work over the holiday break. They really need that money, or they're very ambitious and really want that experience. So we always offer it to them. About 50% actually come back and take us up on that, and they will work over the holiday break. And then and those are usually the go-getters. Those are the ones we want. And so then they're automatically offered an internship for the following year if they're doing good work, if they're doing great. And if not, we'll see where they are in their journey, but we always offer that extra as well.
One thing I just want to jump in on, Chris mentioned about, showing interns what it's like, to work, in different areas, or to see, I don't want to say a heated discussion, but maybe there's a difference of opinion around a table, and how does that, what are the results of that in the workforce, right? One of the things, just sort of on the flip side, from our employees' perspective, we've partnered with Parish Hill High School with a program that they're transitioning high school seniors that are neurodivergent into the workforce. And so we've welcomed a student in through an internship. It's obviously giving that student such a meaningful work experience, but it's
Right.
also showing our employees how to work with someone who maybe doesn't work the way you do or learn the way you do, right?
Right.
And it's sort of opening those doors for our team members to work differently, understand different perspectives. And the same can be said, for a student who isn't, neurodivergent, right? But the younger workforce that's coming in with different values than some of our older generations have, it's teaching them to work together and find that harmony. So the flip side of that experience, I think, is super beneficial too.
So we have so many really cool points that all of you are making. There's a couple more questions. I am going to take some of those questions and email those to our panelists today, and then share those back with the people that are on this call today and make that available. But in deference to time, I want to ask Dawn if she can pull up slides. I'm going to run through really just a couple of quick activities or quick offerings for the employers on the phone. So just overview, you could have brand exposure and access to college students through a database that I have if you do postings through us. And then we'd love you to have your interns that you hire be enrolled in our program to participate in a June 3rd orientation kickoff, summer tours and webinars. And for those of you who have less than 300 Connecticut-based employees, you could be qualified for a grant each summer for up to $14,000 in matching wages. Next slide, Donna. Just going quickly here. And I should say to my panelists, think of if there's one more thing you want to say in 1 or 2 sentences. I'm going to ask you to come back on camera in a moment to do that. All right. So your final words of advice. For students, obviously, the program and the offerings that we give that extend beyond what they do when they're within the 4 walls of your operation are to help them with improving that networking, improving that sense of a career professional self. We provide an orientation session and these visits that are available to different manufacturers around the state. And then the next slide gives you a quick splash of many of the employers who've participated in the past, but not all, but very many of them. And following that is, this is some of the tours that we have lined up for this coming summer, with a few more to be still defined, as well as the fact that we'll offer lunchtime webinars in June and July on professional content topics, as well as about end of summer presentations, many of the students, like Meg described, and like I know Chris described, happen at your companies at the end of the summer. So the next steps, just real quickly, visit our CCAT.us interns website, sign up for the career fair, and I'm going to have a QR code on the next page, and engage. And so on to that QR code, Donna. So for anyone on the phone, if you haven't had these links or access to them, please take a shot of these and join us. And lastly, connect with me if you have any questions. And to my employer partners, all of you, if you'll come back on camera, is there one more thing you'd like to say as we wrap up here?
Sure, I'll go
Who
ahead and
first?
start.
Great,
I
Chris.
would say this, last thing I could say is, if you're experiencing any barriers to entry to starting an internship program at your company, or you have anybody that is hesitating or seems to be resistant, CCAT really tears all those walls down for you. The financial incentives, if you're a smaller company, it creates a no-brain type of decision to make, so work with CCAT.
Chris. Robin, Meg, Jess?
It is really a great program. Not only working with CCAT, they make it so easy and seamless to help you through any questions or hurdles that you might have. But as Chris mentioned, financially, if that question about how much do you pay, whatever you choose to pay them, you're going to get up to $3,500 back for each intern. So that helps financially to be able to make the decision of if or how many interns you want to take on for the summer. But it's also just a great learning experience for the company as well. You're teaching them, but we always get something back. These interns are whip smart now, and they have such great ideas, and seeing them learn and get it, it's just like a parent. When you are watching your own child learn and grow, it gives you so much pride. Well, you're doing that for these kids as well. And it makes us all happy, whether they stay with us or not. It's wonderful to see them.
And I'll just it's a great kind of segue, Robin, I appreciate that so much. For us, I mean, the smallest steps can have the biggest impact, right? And I think internships are proof that a single opportunity can just really change everything.
Awesome. And Meg,
Yeah, I'd
you're
like to echo
my
that.
perfect role model.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that kind of sentiment. I think having a strong internship program is one where you have good mentorship, and that trust of like, I'm going to give these interns a tough project because I know that they can do it, and I know that they'll create something really good that's going to have high impact for me as the employer.
Awesome. Awesome. So thank you so very much to my colleagues here. I really appreciate all of what you've shared and all of what I've learned today and can carry forth and share with others as well. So for the questions that we didn't get to, I have copied them, and I will look to turn to my peers and see if they can give me some quick advice or answers, and then share that out with the whole group that has been on the call today as a follow-up. So thank you again. I really value everyone's time and look forward to supporting you going forward. And thank you for sharing your advice, your best practices, and your openness with the whole group to make all of us better. Everyone have a fabulous rest of your day and week.